My workshop is a small, quiet space in Portland, filled with the smell of rosewood, spruce, and lacquer. It's a world I control. I spend my days surrounded by things that are broken: a cracked soundboard, a warped neck, a voice that has been lost to time. My world is one of precise curves, delicate strings, and the patient, steady work of bringing music back to life. I'm good at mending the instruments of others. I'm good at finding the precise point of tension a string needs to sing. I was never very good at mending my own life. Just hours ago, my wife, Maria, left. There was no shouting, no shattering plates. Our ending wasn't a storm. It was a frost, a slow, silent freeze that had been coming for months, for years. A quiet so cold it finally cracked the foundation. She had simply packed a single, expensive-looking suitcase one I didn't recognize, placed her wedding ring on the immaculate kitchen counter, and walked out into the downpour. Next to the ring, there was a note. Not a letter, a note. 5 words on a piece of heavy, cream-colored hotel stationery. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. Sorry for what? For leaving, or for the last 2 years? She left behind a silence that was heavier, more suffocating than any argument we ever had. I can't piece together her last words, because there weren't any. Just that note. All I can remember clearly is the metallic zip of her suitcase, and the final, quiet click of the front door as she closed it behind her. A sound as final as a latch on a coffin. The house feels wrong. It feels hollowed out. A guitar body without strings. The photos on the bookshelf are suddenly a mockery. Smiling faces from trips to the coast, anniversaries, parties. Moments that once seemed like solid, kiln-dried wood. Now, they just look like a thin veneer, peeling at the edges. I pick one up: our first anniversary. God, we were young. I trace her smile with my thumb and wonder, when did that smile stop being for me? When did it become something she put on, like her makeup, before facing the world? I think of the long, silent dinners, the clinking of silverware the only sound, the nights she worked late, coming home smelling of her sharp, floral perfume I didn't recognize, her eyes too bright, the way she had begun to look through me, as if I were just another piece of furniture. The signs were all there, humming at a low frequency I'd refused to hear. I kept trying to tune the strings, to adjust the tension, believing that love, that history, could hold everything together. Now, the truth is sitting on the counter, cold, hard, and undeniable. I am alone. Sound of a faucet running, then stopping. I walk into the kitchen. The sight of 2 untouched coffee mugs on the counter stops me. I'd made one for her that morning, a small, hopeful ritual. She hadn't even touched it. I pick up her mug, then mine. I pour them both down the sink. The dark liquid swirls away, like the last 12 years of my life. The sound of the gurgling drain is too loud. It only reminds me of how empty the house has become. I sit back on the couch, in the dark, trying to breathe. My chest feels heavy, like it's full of wet concrete. I want to call someone, to hear a human voice, to be told this isn't the end of everything. But I can't. Who would I even call? Our friends were her friends, polished, fast-moving people who saw my workshop as a queen hobby. And I'm not even sure I understand it myself. Sound of her sharp, sudden doorbell, echoing in the quiet room. I freeze. My heart hammers against my ribs. My first thought, my first, stupid, hopeful, desperate thought, is that it's her, that she forgot her laptop, that she changed her mind, that this was all a terrible, dramatic mistake. But I dismiss it. Maria isn't the type to leave and come back. She makes clean cuts. Slowly, I get up. I feel like I'm moving through water. I open the door. Standing there is Isabel, Maria's mother. Her presence throws me off completely. She's calm, dressed in a simple dark raincoat, holding a small, folded umbrella. She looks timeless. Her eyes, though, are not calm. They are the same deep brown as her daughter's, but they hold a deep, knowing sorrow and a quiet, ancient strength. I don't know what to say. We've always been polite, but distant. David, she says softly. Her voice is like aged wood, carrying a warmth I wasn't expecting. May I come in? I step aside, numb. I'm confused. Why is she here? I brace myself for the assault. What did you do? How could you let this happen? After all, her daughter just walked away from me. It would be so easy, so natural, for her to point the finger. But she walks in gently, not as an accuser, but as a witness. She glances at the kitchen counter, sees the note, sees the ring still gleaming under the light. She sees it all. We sit in the living room, the same space that felt unbearably empty just a minute ago. I struggle for words. My throat is tight. Finally, I just say it. The only thing that's real. She's gone. Isabel looks at me, her gaze steady and flinching. I know, she replies. Her tone isn't sharp or surprised. She called me from the car. My throat tightens even more. Then you know, she doesn't want this anymore. Isabel pauses, as if choosing her words with the same care I use to carve a guitar's neck. David, sometimes people leave, not because they don't care, but because they simply don't know how to stay. Maria, she's been searching for a different song for a long time, a faster song, and it's not a song you could have taught her. Her words startle me. A faster song. That's exactly it. I had braced myself for a storm of blame. Instead, she's offering me validation, shelter. It's unexpected. It's disarming. I lean back, letting her words sink in. For the first time all night, the crushing silence in the apartment doesn't feel quite so total. Isabel's presence fills the space. She doesn't press for details. She doesn't dig into the raw wounds. She just sits there, giving me the one thing I hadn't realized I needed. Companionship. Music fades in. Softly, thoughtful Isabel didn't rush to speak again. She has a stillness about her, a quality I'd always admired, but never really understood. She understood that silence, the right kind of silence, can heal. I, on the other hand, felt restless. I kept looking at the unfinished guitar body on my workbench in the corner, at the rain on the window, anywhere but her face. I wanted to explain, to justify, to say something that would make sense of the last year, but every sentence just collapsed in my mind. Finally, she breaks the stillness. David, she says, her voice so soft. I didn't come here to assign blame. I came because I know you're hurting, and I didn't want you to have to face this night alone. Her words hit me harder than any anger could have. I look up. There's only sincerity in her eyes. Not pity, just sincerity. I loved her. Isabel, I say, the words spilling out, hot and sudden. I did everything I knew how. I tried. I really tried. But maybe I wasn't enough. Too quiet, too simple, too slow. My voice cracks on the last word. I lean forward, burying my face in my hands, ashamed of the sudden, raw grief I feel. More than see her lean closer. Her tone is firm, but impossibly gentle. Don't you dare say that. You gave her your love. You gave her a home. You gave her an anger. You were there for her. Sometimes people just drift away, not because the anchor isn't strong enough, but because they are determined to be at sea. They're looking for a different shore, and they cut the rope themselves. I take in her words. Cut the rope. Then why does it feel like I've lost everything? Why does it feel like my failure? Because you invested your whole heart, she replies. Because you're the one who stayed. And when you give that much, the absence feels unbearable. But David, don't let this convince you that you are less. You are still the man who loved with honesty, and that matters. It matters more than anything. Her voice has such calm strength. I feel something shift inside me. She's not just speaking as Maria's mother, defending her daughter. She's speaking for me, for the man sitting in pieces in front of her. The hours move strangely. I open up. I talk about the distance, the late nights, the emptiness I tried to hide even from myself. I admit I pretended everything was fine because I was terrified of this exact moment, terrified of the truth. She listens. She just listens. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't offer solutions. She just holds the space. At one point, I look at her. exhausted. I don't know why I'm telling you this. You're her mother. You should hate me. Isabel shakes her head, a small, sad smile on her lips. Hate doesn't fix anything, David. And I don't hate you. I see your pain, and I know your heart. You were good at first. It was just small acts of kindness. A text in the morning, thinking of you. I hope the day is gentle. A thermos of soup left on my doorstep. A short conversation on the phone, just to break the crushing silence. But over time, I began to look forward to those visits. Her footsteps in the hall, her voice, the way she'd bring a small plant from her garden to put on the windowsill, bringing a little life back into the apartment. It wasn't just about company. It was the comfort of being seen. One afternoon, she found me in my workshop, staring at a half-finished acoustic. I was holding a piece of sandpaper, but I hadn't moved in an hour. She didn't startle me. She just stood in the doorway. It's beautiful, she said, her voice quiet. I looked up. It's just wood. No, she said, walking in. She ran her hand over a raw plank of spruce. It's not. It's potential. She looked around at the tools, the wood shavings, the templates hanging on the wall. Maria had always hated the smell of the shop. She called it my dusty shed. Isabel's eyes, however, wouldn't glaze over. She asked about the grain, about how the wood sings. How do you know? She asked, touching the curved side of a classical guitar. How do you know what song it's going to make? You don't, I said. The first real words I'd spoken all day. You listen to the wood. You feel its tension. You respect it. And you hope you've done the work to help it find its voice. She looked at me, her eyes full of a new understanding. You're a very patient man, David. In that moment, she reminded me of the good in myself, when all I could see was failure. And slowly, I found myself laughing again. Small, rusty laughs. But they were real. One Friday evening, I came home from the shop, exhausted, the smell of sawdust and solvent clinging to me. I found her waiting on the porch steps, holding a basket. I thought you might not have eaten, she said, with her usual, gentle smile. My chest eased at the sight of her. You didn't have to, Isabel. I wanted to, she said simply. We ate together at the kitchen table, and for the first time in so long, the apartment felt warm. It felt like a home. I found myself watching her, the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her garden, the way she moved with this quiet, unassuming grace. I caught myself staring and quickly looked away, feeling a flush of something I couldn't name, afraid of what it meant. Later, we moved to the living room. The fireplace crackled. You know, Isabel began, her tone thoughtful. I was worried about you, David. When Maria told me she was leaving, I thought you'd just stop, like a broken instrument, that you close the shop and shut the world out. But you surprised me. I gave a faint laugh. I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. But you've made it easier. I don't think I would have gotten through these weeks without you. Her eyes softened, and something unspoken hung in the air between us. We shared stories, not about Maria, about the past. I talked about my father, and how he taught me to build my first simple instrument, a cigar box guitar, the patience he had. And then I asked her, you seem to understand my work. The patience. She looked into the fire. I used to be a musician, she said, so quietly I almost missed it. What? A cellist. A long time ago, before I was a mother. What happened? I asked. She shrugged, a small, sad gesture. Life, I suppose. I got married. I had Maria, her father. He was a man like Eladio. No, wait, that's the other story. She smiled at her own mistake. He was a practical man. He didn't see the value in nice. And then Maria came, and there just wasn't room for it anymore. I put my cello in its case, and there it stayed, in the attic, for 30 years. The hours slipped by. The firelight flickered across her face. I noticed details I'd never let myself see before. The small lines of kindness around her eyes, the strength in her hands, the deep, unspoken loss in her voice. A thought, quiet and dangerous, crossed my mind. What would it feel like to reach out and take one of those hands? I pushed the thought away, viciously, guilty. But the feeling didn't fade as the evening ended. I walked her to the door. She turned to face me. Our eyes locked for just a moment longer than normal. It was a look that spoke volumes. A silent conversation I didn't know how to have. "Thank you," I said quietly, "for everything. You've made this place feel alive again." Her lips curved into a soft smile. "You're stronger than you know, David. Don't ever forget that." Our hands brushed as I held the door. The contact was brief, but it sent a shock of warmth through me I couldn't explain. When the door closed, I leaned against it, my heart unsteady. I had expected to feel only grief these past weeks, but instead, something new had begun to grow in the ruins. Something I hadn't seen coming. That night, lying awake, I replayed the evening, the laughter, the comfortable silence, the story of the cello, the lingering glance. I told myself it was nothing, just gratitude, just loneliness. But deep down, I knew better. Isabel wasn't just helping me survive. She was changing me. And one question echoed in my mind, over and over. What if the person who understood me most wasn't the one who had left, but the one who had stayed? Music swells, then softens into a more tense, uncertain melody the next afternoon. She knocked. When I opened the door, she was just standing there. No soup, no basket, just herself. She looked calm, but serious. My chest tightened. This visit was different. "Can I come in?" She walked into the living room, but she didn't sit. She stood by the window, looking out at the rain, her back to me. "David," she began, her voice steady. "I've been thinking about these past few weeks, about the time we've spent, about our conversations." She paused, searching my eyes in the reflection of the glass. "I didn't just come here for Maria's sake, David. In the beginning, maybe, but not anymore. I came because I wanted to." I swallowed, my mouth suddenly dry. You've helped me more than you know, Isabel." She turned to face me. "And you," she said, "you've reminded me of something I thought I'd lost. The feeling of being truly seen. David, I know this isn't what either of us expected, but I can't ignore what's growing in my heart." Her words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I stared at her, stunned. "Isabel, are you saying?" She nodded just once. Her eyes were steady, but vulnerable. "I care about you, David, deeply. Not as my daughter's husband, not as a project to fix, but as you." I felt a rush of emotions, shock, confusion, guilt, fear. But also, beneath it all, a deep, undeniable, terrifying pull. I had felt it for weeks. I had just refused to name it. I stepped back, running a hand through my hair. This is impossible," I whispered. "Isabel, you're her mother. People, the world, they would never understand." Isabel moved closer, her voice calm, but firm. "I've spent my entire life doing what's possible, doing what people understand. I became the wife they expected, the mother they expected. I put my cello in the attic, and so have you. You became the quiet husband, the provider, the one who stays. Look where it's gotten us. Alone, in a quiet room." She held my gaze. "Life doesn't always follow the rules we set for it, David. Love doesn't ask for permission. It just grows in the cracks. And it has grown here, between us." I wanted to argue, to tell her it was wrong, that it would only bring more pain. But as I looked into her eyes, all I saw was honesty. All I felt was the undeniable truth that this woman had been there for me, had seen me, in a way no one else had in a very, very long time. I sank onto the couch. She sat beside me, close, but not touching. "I don't want to make this harder for you," she said gently. "If you don't feel this, I will walk out that door and we will never speak of it again. I will go back to being Maria's mother." But I couldn't stay silent. "You deserve the truth." My mind raced. I thought of Maria, the heartbreak, the betrayal, the cold, empty space she left. But then I thought of Isabel, the warmth, the laughter, the way she listened, the way she looked at the grain of a piece of maple like it was magic. The way she had reminded me of my own worth when I felt like nothing. Finally, I spoke, my voice low, almost a whisper. I don't know what this means, Isabel. I don't know what we're supposed to do, but I can't deny it. God help me, I can't. I feel it, too. Her breath hitched. A single tear escaped and ran down her cheek. And for the first time, I saw her eyes shine with both relief and fear. Then, she said softly, we'll take it one day at a time. No expectations, no rules, just honesty. That was 6 months ago. It wasn't easy. Of course it was, and single quotes T. 2 weeks after that conversation, Maria called. She didn't call to reconcile. She called to tell me her lawyer would be serving me with divorce papers. I was calm. I said, I understand. And then she said, and stay away from my mother. She told me she's been checking on you. It's pathetic. Don't use her as your emotional crutch. David, my voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. Your mother is the only one who has shown me any real kindness. Maria, you don't get to dictate that. You're a monster, she hissed, and hung up when she found out. Really found out. She was furious. She said things I won't repeat. Foul things. She called me a predator. She called her mother a traitor. She used words as weapons, trying to hurt us both as much as she had been hurt. And friends we had shared for a decade. They chose sides. Most of them didn't choose ours. The world, it turns out, doesn't like things it can't easily label. We were judged. We were whispered about. It was hard. But every time the world pushed against us, every time I felt that wave of guilt or shame, Isabel would just put her hand on mine and say, are you okay, David? And I would look at her, and I would nod. I sold the shop in Portland. I sold the apartment that held so many ghosts. I packed up my tools, my lathes, my stock of precious, aging wood. We live on the coast now, in a small town south of Cannon Beach. It's quiet here. The air is clean, and it smells of salt and pine. We've built a small workshop for me in the old barn. I still build guitars. It keeps my hands busy. It keeps me sane. And Isabel, she plays music. The first thing we did when we moved was drive to her old attic. Her husband, Maria's father, had passed away years ago. The house was empty. We went up to the attic, and there it was, in its black case, covered in dust. I spent a month restoring it. The wood was dry, the soundpost had fallen, the bridge was warped, but I worked on it, patiently. I treated it like the most precious instrument I'd ever touched. I brought it back to life. This morning, I woke up, and she was already in the living room, a cup of tea steaming beside her, playing, practicing her scales. The sound was rough, hesitant, but it was alive. It was the sound of a voice, silent for 30 years, finally finding the courage to sing again. I don't know what to call this. It's not a story with a simple label. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's ours. But I look at her, and she looks at me, and we are seen. When one chapter closes, another one really does begin, even if it begins in the most unexpected, most impossible way. Music fades out with the resonant, hopeful sound of a single cello note.